My name is Lana. Welcome to my YouTube channel. And on this channel, we review books. My tone kind of changed there, didn't it? Today's book review is My Weil. And I did, this was from the previous recording. Ooh, that book is thick. I did Google how to pronounce this because Simone Weil is French. And so I wanted to make sure I got the proper French pronunciation. So let's hop into this. This book was kindly gifted to me by the author, Melville House, and I agreed to take it and read it and review it because it just sounded really unique. And I was right. Let's dive into this. Only religious language has the gravitas, has the dimensions to let us talk about these things because evil really does have a capital E. In My Weil by Lars Iyer, is that how you pronounce that? I'm using Iyer. I'm using how I would pronounce that if I was Iyer. I looked up how to pronounce Simone Weil and didn't look at how to pronounce the author's name, but bear with me. That's how I would pronounce it. I'm kind of relying on Spanish as my second language here. So anyway, he features a group of PhD students at a university in Manchester, England, sometime in the near future. These students are seeking doctorates in the humanities in the midst of a looming apocalypse. Again, it's sometime in the near future. So I'm going to assume the 21st century. However, instead of zombies and robots, we've come to expect in most apocalyptic narratives or dystopians, the author portrays a gritty Manchester that uncomfortably looks like most of the West's major cities today. So not just Manchester. When I was reading this, I was like, that looks like LA. That looks like New York City, Philly, Chicago, Portland, Oregon. Yeah. And I know some other major cities as well in the West and in Europe. So we have this eclectic group of students. They meet another student who has changed her name to call herself Simone Weil after the mid-century French philosopher of the same name. Simone Weil had her own unique brand of not necessarily philosophy. It's a bit existentialist, a bit Christian socialist. Very interesting. She's a very interesting person, and she actually lived her own philosophy. But she was definitely present, alive, prominent during when Simone de Beauvoir and Albert Camus and all those were also around. But together, these students put their heads together with various philosophical ideologies to figure out how to survive and fight this new grim reality. The author's novels are known for their satire, so keep that in mind if you choose to pick this up. Even in this review, keep in mind that he's satirizing a lot of this stuff. And though it is a satire, there are some things that hit a little too close to home. You're like, ooh, I didn't I just see that on the news though the other day? Yeah. He's clearly drawing parallels. So throughout the novel, the students reference the man with a capital M, which is referring to both Manchester, but they're also calling the system the man that is manipulating and controlling society. Are you being a good citizen? Do you engage in antisocial behavior? Are you ever critical of the government? And if you are, they'll switch you off because they control all your interactions. Step out of line, do anything wrong, and you'll lose your benefits. They'll freeze your bank account. They'll cut off your cash flow, your electricity. They'll kill switch your vehicle. You won't be allowed to travel. So we have these quirky humanities students, and they're looking at the other students, particularly the business students and the undergraduates, as representing the passive masses. They critique the comfortable living of the middle class and their blissful ignorance, and accuse them also of attributing to this mass, what's the word? Dang it. This mass, almost like laissez-faire attitude, going with the flow. But from their perspective, the man is also using media, books, music, etc. to dumb down and numb the population. entertainment music, diversion music, music to distract you while they thin out the herd, while they implement the new reality, and worse, mass hypnosis music, mass formation music. The middle class outraged by what they're supposed to be outraged by, loving what they're supposed to love. And then within this, we get this portrayal, especially from these humanities students, about homogeneity within society. And these students in particular push against this hard. All of them exactly alike, all of them mirrored constantly, a horrible multiplication, hundreds and thousands of undergraduates crowding the horizon. Depression, every anti-man thought we've ever had, sponsored by the man. Every anti-man sentiment, every anti-man sentiment we've expressed. Man-funded, man underwritten. I have the attention span of a squirrel sometimes. I'm sorry, my brain flatlined. So how do these students plan to fight the man? And so for one, they choose to highlight the mundane, to show that regardless of what chaos is occurring, highlighting the everyday life establishes and elevates the everyday to a level of importance. The everyday is vast. No one can control it, not even the man. You can't direct the everyday. It barely exists, and yet it insists it's there nonetheless. And of course, because we have this character who is introduced into this group of humanities students, the self-named Simone Weil, who takes a more religious, faith-based approach after the actual Simone Weil's own religious philosophy. These students become acquainted with her brand of philosophy, and they see that even if some of these characters never end up believing in God or never having a religion, they see that there is an importance to having some type of faith to fight against the man. Putting faith in something bigger and more benevolent eases the sense of dread that things are hopeless. Like in the first quote that I used to kind of describe the book, that evil does have a capital E. So if something is evil, there has to be something good to counteract evil, right? And in the end, it gives you hope that good will always win, even if things are dark for a time. Faith isn't about certainty, Simone says. It's not about answers. It doesn't mean you know everything. Another way, in addition to faith being important to fight this system and highlighting the importance of living day-to-day life, there is an emphasis on community, and this was actually probably my favorite theme in the whole book. There is something about close bonds and being connected with others, especially in the home, over food. Gathering around the table that blocks out the chaos of the world. It also creates an environment that is difficult to the man to permeate, or the system to permeate. And all invited to sit around the common table. All invited to join us around the candle for our collective meal. All to enjoy the good things of life and together. In celebration and thankfulness, all to know that there is no futility, that nothing's wasted, that our days on earth are not a shadow, that the world isn't evil after all. This is a quick review. Because I did agree to take it from the author, I did review it on Instagram. I wanted to highlight it, even if briefly, because it's really, really unique. I don't think I've read anything quite like it. The reason why, I can see why Melville House reached out to me, because I do like these type of topics and books. It's right up my alley. There's also something about this book that lingers. I still find myself thinking about it occasionally. And also, so Muse is one of my favorite musicians, bands. They're anti-establishment, hands down. While I was reading this book, I was hearing certain Muse songs in my head. Songs like Uprising, songs like Knights of Sidonia, songs like Won't Back Down and Compliance, which came out on their 2022 album that was released last year. Like, I could hear songs like MK Ultra and all that stuff. You know, if you know Muse, you know. I also think that Muse is one of the most, they're major bands, don't get me wrong, but I think because they're really quirky and they have some unique sounds that is not to everybody's palate, which I totally understand. Muse is such a talented group, and Matthew Bellamy, the man can sing, okay? and he can play the guitar, and he can play the piano. Panic Station, that song is genius. Anyway, if you are a Muse fan, you're probably going to like this book. Just saying. I think that readers who enjoy an academic narrative will like this book. It's not dark academia, but it is bleak. Like dark academia, you think of books like The Secret History. But in a way, there's you can compare the two in the sense that you have these quirky group of students who have very specific majors. They have their own bubble, and it's them against everybody else. They have their own world. But it's not, I don't know if I would call it dark academia, but if you like academic books, I think that this will appeal to you. The author is a professor of philosophy, and you can see that in his work. I think that if you are very savvy with various types of philosophy from Heidegger, Nietzsche, Simone de Beauvoir, Sartre, Camus, you will probably be able to track some of these because he never calls them out by name. Maybe Heidegger is mentioned once or Nietzsche is mentioned once or whatever. But if you like books that are philosophical, blatantly philosophical, and pulling from various frameworks, I think you'll enjoy this. In full transparency, I had a hard time rating this book. I couldn't pin down a score. I just know that I liked it. And I'm even considering maybe in the future doing away with, do I want to do away with ratings? I don't know. Maybe. Or maybe I'm just like, if I don't feel like rating a book, maybe I won't rate it. But this is one of those books I was like, why? I couldn't fit it in a box. Maybe that's it. This book I could not fit in a box. I couldn't pin it down. So why? Let's break with tradition. Let's go with the flow and say, I just really liked it. It was unique. And he's a good writer. He has his own style. And I thought it was thought-provoking and edgy and quirky and satirical and funny at times. There were times I LOL'd. I annotated it a lot. All wins in my book. No puns intended. And this is a new release. It was released August 29th, 2023. So thank you for the publisher for sending this to me. If this sounds like your cup of tea, pick it up. Why not, right? I will say there is a lot, I didn't say this in my Instagram review, there is a lot of profanity in this book, which for me, it's not a reason why I'm not going to read a book. But if you are really, you don't like to, maybe I don't want to use word sensitive. If that kills a book for you, don't read it. F-bombs everywhere. I will say that it was almost, I was like, in some ways there were times maybe I did feel like it detracted from the story. Why did I pick this up? That it did maybe detract from the story a bit because it was all the time, and dialogue in particular between these students. F-bomb city. If that bothers you, don't read. You won't get on with this. I did feel like in some cases maybe it was distracting, but not distracting enough for me personally to not enjoy the overall message of the book, right? But that's all I'm going to say. I did enjoy this. It was unique. This author is new to me. He does have other books published, and I always like reading a little bit outside of what maybe I would have picked up for myself. But theme-wise, Melville House nailed it. They nailed it. I like it when somebody reaches out to me, or a publisher or a publicity company reaches out to me, and they pick something, hey, I think you're going to like this. That means that they've gone through my stuff and says, okay, we know what's going to suit this person. And I can tell that they thoughtfully asked me if I would accept. That's all I'm going to say for this one. I hope this maybe piqued your interest. I don't think, I haven't seen too many people talking about this book. Maybe yet, I don't know. If you are familiar with this author, have you read his other works, and would you recommend his other novels? Please feel free to leave me a comment, like, and subscribe. And what else? Follow me on Instagram, where I get up to more bookish shenanigans. All of my book content goes there first. And I also like to post funny stories or reels in Instagram stories, memes, and all that stuff, because again, you should laugh every day. With that, I'm going to sign off and get some lunch. I'm hungry.